Yeah. Yes. We
Hey,
on. Schmackamagobbin. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. How was your Thanksgiving there, Tony?
pretty laid back actually. We Linda's sick. She's had a really bad cold for a few days, so we decided to lay low today. We were actually going to go out and eat, and we were going to go see the new horror movie Thanksgiving this afternoon. I'd purchased tickets for that, and she just said I just don't need to do anything today. She said it just felt really really bad, so we just laid around. And luckily Alamo Theater, best place in the area to see movies, they were nice enough to refund my tickets. I'm sure they could sell them pretty easy. And yeah, I just went out and got us some food, and we've just chilled out here all day pretty much. So it's been pretty laid back. Which I work retail, so I got to go back into the war zone for Black Friday.
Oh my God. Tomorrow's gonna be brutal.
Yeah, so it's good to have a day just to chill, you know.
I
Oh,
hear you, man. I had well, it was an early Thanksgiving. I was under the impression I'd be home like pretty early, but I didn't. I just got home like less than an hour ago. And we went to my cousin's house. My first time there. What a gorgeous house they have. And it was great Thanksgiving. But yeah, man, it got to the point where I my brother drove us there, and I went up to him saying, "Dude, we got to go soon." You know, I still got to go home and take a shower, before I do this. So yeah, we left after that, but it was nice. It was a good Thanksgiving. And Tony and I said last week, we're gonna have an early Thanksgiving so we could do a show. But Wayne Wayne might have joined us, but he has like slackers as family members. So he's still eating dinner now because they're slackers. Or else Wayne would have been here. And I want to thank everybody that's tuning in. I am very sorry. My phone, I can't read the stuff. If Wayne was here,
oh,
he usually,
I'll pull it up and see if I can get it.
yeah,
We usually have one. Yeah, we usually have Wayne following this stuff. I usually keep up with it as well, but he's really good at
yeah.
reading this stuff. So yeah, so that's
But
cool. Yeah,
so yeah,
thank
we're
you, Mitch.
huh? You got
Mitch
it
said he liked my Saxon shirt. So yeah,
right on, man. So we initially were talking about Exciter tonight,
yeah.
but we changed that. We'll do that in a future episode because Ozzy's Bark of the Moon just celebrated its 40th anniversary, and we have other anniversary albums to talk about after we talk about the Bark of the Moon.
Hey, quick, Mitch just mentioned that he said he's supposed to see Kiss play Knoxville tomorrow night, but it's been canceled. Paul Stanley's sick now, and they've been canceling shows.
Yeah, I heard it's like a flu.
Mhm. He posted a photo of himself in bed, so I mean, he's not isn't like he's dying or anything, but I guess you when you're sick, you're sick. You don't feel like being on stage performing. That's for
And
sure.
plus, he's got those two farewell shows to do.
Yeah.
That's very soon.
I
What's
even
that?
saw a rumor saying that there's a possibility that they may just take off until those last shows just so he can get in tip top shape for those. But that sucks for people that spent
I
because
feel bad for all you people that bought tickets to that phony
Scab Kiss.
back in track show. Hey, look, man, I'm not bashing anybody for that because people know if they're going to go see Kiss, they know they're going to see backing tracks. They're going to see a drummer that's really good, dumbed down as playing. And then you're going to see Tommy Thayer do Ace Frehley's guitar solo from Kiss Alive. And people like that. So more power to you. I am very sorry that you are going to miss the fake, But hey, have fun, all you people at those farewell shows. There you go.
But if it came here and I could have got a free ticket, I would have gone for sure, just for that, because it's still a great show, even though it is what it is, and that's the way I've just kind of. So I'm like, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, most people feel that way because that's why they're selling out all the arenas, man.
I've had a couple people tell me they're going to get the pay-per-view of the last show, and they've invited me to come over. So hey, I'll probably go watch it.
Yeah, I think I would do that. Well, not pay for the pay-per-view, but I'd rather see it on pay-per-view than just to go to the show. I've seen Kiss enough, dude. I saw the Monster tour, and that was the closing deal for me.
Yeah, and I saw him last year. I mean, so I'm like I'm good with it. If I don't see him again, that was fine.
Yeah, I walked out of that Monster tour saying, "Dude, never again." And I went to that show for free, and I still felt ripped off. And I was like, "That's it. I'm done with Kiss. I'm always gonna love Kiss. I love the album Monster. That shows you as much as I despise the scabs, and when I talk about the scabs, the blame for the scabs is Gene and Paul. I'm not going to sit here and bash Tommy and Eric for doing it. It's Gene and Paul, but whatever. I'm one of those anal Kiss fans, from back in the day. I'm anal about them having these imposters on stage, but most people aren't, and that's cool. That's you, and I'm me, and Ozzy has an anniversary.
That's right.
And it's Bark at the Moon, where I gotta tell you, man, um, the first time I heard Bark at the Moon, I was so not disappointed. I mean, I think it's the only Ozzy album I would put up there with the first two. It's the only one. I think it's dark, it's pissed. Jakey Lee's unbelievable on it. And obviously the most unbelievable person on Bark of the Moon is Ozzy, because if you look at the back of the cover, it says Ozzy wrote everything.
That's right. He sure did.
He did the solos, the drum pattern, the bass lines, the lyrics. He did it all, And hey, the proof is on the back of that album cover, man. And in related news, if it's on the internet, it's true.
That's right.
But what a great album, man. Jakey Lee said he wrote this riff back in the Rough Cut days, Bark of the Moon. I love that riff in the Bark of the Moon, and I love, middle solo is badass, but it's that last solo.
Yeah, the last solo rules.
Unbelievable. What was your impression the first time you heard Bark of the Moon? Do you remember?
I heard "Bark at the Moon" the song first, of course, because the music video, came out, and yeah, I thought it was a killer song. I liked the record. I liked it when I first got it, and it was for a while there. I kind of shied away from it because I don't know, when I listened to it like years later, some of it came off kind of poppy to me because I guess of the keyboards and stuff. But then in the last 10 years, I just kind of had this whole renaissance with it where I'm just like, hey, this is a really, really good album. It's like you said, it's really dark. And one of the songs that I had kind of just never really took notice of that much, and back when I was a kid listening to it, was "Waiting for Darkness," and that's one of the best songs on the album. I mean, it's just great.
That is my favorite song off the album.
Yeah, it's got some good stuff. I mean, "Slow Down" was on the U.S. version, and that's a very, very poppy song. But I was reading something recently where Jakey Lee was saying that he had pretty much "Bark at the Moon," "Rock and Roll Rebel," "Slow Down," and I think "Waiting for Darkness" was the stuff that he brought with him some ideas, and pretty much him and Bob Daisley pretty much assembled all these songs, and they came up with some really good stuff.
Bob Daisley is a genius.
So tired being a ballad like it is. And Jake, even in that interview I was reading, Jake said that he didn't like that song, except when the original take on it was just a 4-piece band doing it before they went in and put the string section and all in it. He said he liked it the original way they had written it. But that's one that I've never really liked the song that much, but the video was really cool. The video was, I mean, Ozzy had some creepy characters because he played all the characters in the video, just like he played all the instruments in the song. But yeah, like the Mr. Hyde character and stuff, the hunchback and all that stuff. I mean, he's
Hitler. The Hitler was there.
Hitler. I mean, it's crazy. Now they wouldn't be able to show that video because of that, probably. But yeah, the makeup and stuff, and it's like I think we were talking about it not long ago, and you mentioned that Ozzy got glass in his eye or something.
It was in his throat.
Yeah, when the mirror exploded, yeah, in the scene, yeah, he got injured.
Yeah, they postponed the show that I saw. So it was postponed for months later because of the glass that went in his throat on that video shoot. I love that song. I know a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I
I,
like it now more than I did back then, but I always liked the video.
I never liked Slow Down though. I
Now,
never.
well,
I,
in Europe they got Spiders. Slow Down
yeah,
is the B
yeah,
side because I've got this is the UK version. So the US version, of course, this is Japanese, but it looks just like the one we got over here. It has the yellow and red logo. Uh,
yeah.
and in Europe, it was more of a blue and yellow tint, and
Nice.
the album is more blue tinted as well.
I
And
like the blue more.
the song title, the song, and this one actually, our album opened up with Bark at the Moon, of course. Here it opens with Rock and Roll Rebel on the UK,
Really?
which is weird
Yeah.
to have the songs placed like that, with Bark at the Moon being your second track. And then the song Center of Eternity is listed as Forever.
Yeah, that I knew.
And of course, we don't get Slow Down. We got Slow Down, but they got Spiders. And Spiders is a cool little song. It's more of a creepy type song. I think Slow Down, yeah, So Tired, that's a 12-inch single. It's got Slow Down on it, I
Well,
believe.
you must have it too, Tony.
Bark at the Moon.
That I own that. That has spiders on it.
Yeah, this is the Bark at the Moon single. It has One Up the B side and Slow Down.
I own that. And let me tell you, one of the B side is awesome. I absolutely love that song.
This was a Japanese one I got recently. It was just called Prince of Darkness. It was kind of like a compilation album, but they used the Bark at the Moon photo on the front. And it's got some cool stuff. It had some photos and stickers and stuff in it. But this is my coolest piece. Oh, let's show you this real fast too. There's a show for So Tired. That's actually a US single for that
Wow.
sleeve of Ozzy. This is the coolest one I got recently though. I just got this a couple weeks ago. This is a Korean pressing of Bark at the Moon.
Wow.
They took the werewolf and the tree off.
I've never seen that.
I guess in Korea, maybe they thought that the werewolf was too evil looking or scary or something. They didn't remove any songs. A lot of Korean pressings, they'll remove songs off because I have the Diary of a Madman from Korea, and it's just the cat. You know how you have Ozzy walking in the room, doing his thing, and the little kid at the table. Over in the window is a black cat sitting in the window. Well, that's the cover art for Diary in Korea. It's just the cat zoomed in, the Ozzy Diary of Madman logo. And they removed a couple songs off the album, including Diary of a Madman's not even on it. So
Wow.
crazy. But
That is interesting. I never
someone
knew.
was telling me that they're one of those CD reissues that came out. I don't think it's the one that well, I know Sharon re-recorded the bass and drums on the first two when they reissued them, but when they put that series out, they did Bark at the Moon as well, but it was the original tracks. Well, someone was telling me I think that's the one that has an extended guitar solo, maybe on Now You See It, Now You Don't or something. If somebody out there might know, I'm not really sure about that because I never purchased that one. The only CD version that I have is that first remaster that came out. And
Yeah.
to me, this sounds amazing. This is the best sounding one of all the reissues that they've done so far. But yeah,
Well,
we're talking
well,
about Spiders, definitely a much better song than Slow Down.
yeah,
And
yeah. I have that one little one that you showed. So tired. What's the B side on that?
uh, one of the B side.
I
Yeah,
love that
it's
song.
listed on here as just B side, but it was like one up the B side is the song.
I absolutely love that song.
But yeah,
Um,
that's a cool one.
yeah. So the next song, it opens with "Part of the Moon," but I think the next song is. I don't like the placement, and I love the song. You're no different. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's a good second song. Now you see it, or "Bark of the Moon." I think would have been better. I think that would have been a better third or fourth song. It's just too mellow, to be the second song on the album. I think it should have been some little more kick ass. But I do love Now You See It. I think it's a great, great tune. And it was really weird how they added it to that compilation box set thing,
Yeah,
like a best of Ozzy. They threw that song. That song was never even played live.
yeah,
It was just like an album track. But I love the song. You think
yeah.
that?
I think it's a good song. It is placed kind of weird as being the second track for sure.
Yeah. And Now You See It smokes. I love that one. You
Yeah.
know, I love the riffage, what Jake does on the song. And Bob Daisley, man, is an amazing bass player. He really,
Even the little keyboard things in there that Don Airy does is really cool.
yeah.
It's very
That,
80s. It's got that early 80s sound about it, but it's cool. It adds to the song. It's pretty cool.
no, I absolutely love that song. And of course, Rock and Roll Rebel is an anthem. You know,
Oh
uh,
yeah, for sure.
I saw the Bark of the Moon tour. I was front row. It was Ozzy Motley opening. The Motley was great. That shot the Devil tour. They were really young and hungry. You know, they were awesome. But I wouldn't say they blew away Ozzy. You know, I mean, I saw Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, and it was an amazing show. But when I saw him on the Speak of the Devil tour, and that's when he shaved his head,
Mm-hmm.
and he had Jakey Lee on guitar, not Brad Gillis, on the tour I saw. And I didn't think he was that good that night. I think Ozzy was just burnt out, you know. But Bark at the Moon, he was on. He performed so well that night that I can't say that Motley blew him away. Motley was probably just as good, but not better. Ozzy smoked that night. It was really good.
Yeah, by the time I saw them, they came to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and it was later in the tour, and they had Accept opening, and it was when Balls to the Walls was a new album. And honestly, I didn't know who Accept was. Honestly, I'd seen the name in magazines. I'd never heard them, and they blew Ozzy off the stage, if you ask me. But
Wow.
I mean, Ozzy was good. It's a good show, but Accept was one of those bands you just see and you go like, wow, if you never saw them before, and it just kind of stole the show in my book. We thought we were going to get Motley Crue. I remember the guy that I rode with was just like really upset that Motley wasn't playing because we didn't even know until we got there.
Wow. Yeah, but all right, so the next song is Center of Eternity, a badass tune.
Definitely
Like another fast paced. Love it. And
love the chants at the beginning. Sounds like the monks or something. It's pretty cool. Good opening.
yeah, which live they brought out monks on stage.
Yeah, with Nikes.
And,
Underneath the black robes, you could see like Nikes.
there's a Pro Shot Salt Lake City show,
Mm-hmm.
that MTV show back in the day, which I have. I think that's a great, great concert video.
Yeah, it is really.
Yeah, they threw in little things like during Revelation Mother Earth, they showed some black and white war footage stuff. It was just awesome. I thought it was unbelievably well for the time, and still, I haven't watched it in a long time, but I bet you if I put that shit on, it still kicks ass.
The live tracks that are on this, Bark at the Moon, Suicide Solution, and Paranoid are from the Salt Lake City show.
Okay.
They should have just released that whole show on album as a live album. They
You
should
know,
back then.
and here's a little tidbit of what happened on this tour, and you may know this, Tony. When they played Japan, Don Airy's mother died. So he had to leave, and they didn't have a keyboard player. And I have, and it's like a soundboard, great recording of it, of them in Japan doing Mr. Crowley, where Jakey Lee plays the intro to that song on guitar.
I have heard that, but I wasn't sure where it came from.
Yeah, because Don Airy had to fly back home, and it was in
Wow.
Japan, and you can hear it on YouTube. And it's really cool to hear that song, The intro played on guitar.
I bet it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then So Tired, a plug to Rat Salad Review, where everybody hates So Tired except for Wayne. Wayne was the only one that liked it, I think, or maybe he hated it too. But everybody else really bashed on it. But then, they went on to say that Slow Down was a good song. I was like, oh, okay. They just have shit taste in music. It's okay. But I love So Tired. It's Beatley, and I love shit like that. So I have no problem with So Tired. Yeah, I don't like Slow Down. That's the only song I don't like on here. It sounds kind of nursery rhymish.
Yeah.
The melody of the vocals.
It's still got a cool guitar solo in it.
Oh yeah,
That's what saves. That's what saves the whole song. The
yeah.
solo is actually really cool.
Yeah, the only thing I liked about it was the solo, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite, I think my favorite even back then. I remember I was disappointed he didn't play it. Was Waiting for Darkness that night. I was like, whoa, he didn't play Waiting for Darkness. I love that fucking song, which I feel is the best song on the album. I love that riff that Jake does in the beginning of the song. It's just so quick and it sounds so good. I never heard anybody play like that. Jakey Lee is extremely underrated. You got to follow Randy Rhoads, but my God, his guitar playing on the song "Bark at the Moon," on "Waiting for Darkness," on "Now You See It." The guy is a phenomenal, phenomenal guitar player. One of the best. I absolutely love Jakey Lee on this album. Smokes.
Yeah, he's definitely the MVP of that album for sure.
Oh yeah.
And Ozzy found the right guy with him. I mean, supposedly, I guess he had George Lynch in the band, and he basically fired George Lynch after seeing Jake, and did a couple of good records. But this is a great record. Now, I mean, I know you don't really like Ultimate Sin. I like it okay, but good tour. Saw him on that tour as well. But yeah, Jake was kind of quiet for a couple of years, and he came back with the Badlands thing, and they did a couple of really good records, and then he just kind of went into obscurity. We didn't hear anything out of him for like 20 years or so. Did you see the what was his band called, Red Dragon Cartel? Did you see them when they came through?
Yeah, I saw him once.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, he played here. It was a good show. Good show. I mean, I thought his band was a little subpar. I think it's just he could have had a better singer, I thought.
Well, when I saw them, it was like, I don't know, the third singer they got, and it was the first album tour because that first singer was kicked out, and they had another singer. Well, I saw the one where they got, I think it was the third singer, the first show that he ever played with Red Dragon Cartel, and I filmed it, right? And it ended up on Blabbermouth because they opened with "Now You See It, Now You Don't," where the singer sang the lyrics to "The Ultimate Sin" during that song.
Wow.
And I put it up, and Blabbermouth grabbed it and put, oh, look, the singer fucking up the first song, And Jake was like, I don't know, he might have been on something, but the guy was just so happy. He was just a happy dude. He came up, he did an ID for my podcast, and he was just a really cool dude. On most bands, they stay in their bus. Jake was out in front of the club, like greeting everybody. He didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, he hung out for a while after the show that I saw because I got him to sign my Bark at the Moon tour book and my Ultimate Sin tour book, and yeah, he was cool. He hung out. They did Rock and Roll Rebel that night, and the drummer sang lead for that one.
That was the first tour, the first album.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't come down for that second one.
Yeah, like I said, I saw him there, but I didn't see him when the second album came out. I saw him when he played Riley, and then he played at M3 that year as well.
Yeah, he played great the night I saw him.
Yeah, he wasn't bad at all. I mean, the band, I was like, hey, he just needs a better band. Just better players. Now,
Yeah.
and then Greg Chasen ended up joining the band from Badlands, and that would have been cool to see.
Oh yeah.
I never got a chance to see Badlands.
Oh, that's a shame. I saw him 3 times.
They played around here a couple of times. I just missed out and didn't see them.
I saw the first tour twice, where I saw them open for Great White and Tesla. I think that was the tour. And then I saw them headline a club. And then Voodoo Highway, they came back and they headlined a club. And well, here's a funny story. We all know what happened to Ray Gillen. Well, when I was at the Voodoo Highway show, a girl I know, she's really cool, a friend of mine, was hitting on Ray Gillen, and Ray Gillen kind of like, he avoided it. He got out of it. But if, let's say, Ray Gillen, would have taken her upstairs, there's a story of Ray Gillen and a bunch of groupies.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, it makes no sense, but they say that's why Atlantic Records won't release Badlands or Voodoo Highway, because of the family of those girls that died. I don't see how that makes sense.
No, I heard something about, I've heard that for years, but I saw something recently. I don't know if it was an interview with Jake or what it was. I can't recall, but basically they're saying that's just BS. That's not why. It's basically that it's record company politics. Like, they pissed them off when they did the second album, and they didn't even promote the second album very well, according to this story. So, it's just, I think they got some people pissed off at them at the record label, pretty much. They didn't. Like I said, they didn't. He said they didn't do a lot of promotion for second album. You have a very cool piece I've seen in your collection. You have that Voodoo Highway license plate.
Yeah, from Atlantic Records
promo. Was a CD inside of that? Is what it was?
No, it was just a license plate. That's it.
Yeah. So they did a little bit of stuff to promote the record, but I guess it doesn't. I think they wanted them to bring in outside songwriters and stuff for that second album, and it didn't work out. Like, they didn't follow the directions of the record label, so they got some people bad side.
I think it's a shame, because I think Voodoo Highway is an amazing album, and I love the song. What's the single? The first song off the album, Last Time.
Last Time, yeah.
But man, Fire and Rain, that James Taylor,
great. That should have been. Yeah, that should have been a massive hit. Yeah, because so many of the bands of that period were having hits with remakes of old 70s songs, like Mr. Big did, what was it? It's a Wild World or whatever, the song. They had a hit with it. So many people were having hits like that with those old 70s songs, rehashing them.
Cats in the Cradle.
Yeah, from Ugly Kid Joe.
Yeah. And the funny story about them doing that cover was it was suggested to them by somebody, I forgot who, saying, you guys got to do this cover. So they go, okay. So they went in and did it. And then when they played it to the guy's like, no, I wanted Fire and the one that Ace Frehley covered from Free with Paul Stanley.
Fire and Water.
He actually asked them to do Fire and Water, but he told them Fire and Rain by accident. That's how they ended up doing it,
Wow. That's great.
But
they were doing, I've got a live bootleg video of Badlands, and I think they do something by Bad Company live. Do you remember on the tour?
No, I remember them playing Speed King from Deep Purple.
I want to say they do something like Live for the Music or something. They were doing. Somebody out there can chime in and say, I can't remember. I just remember they did a cover of a Bad Company song on that tour.
No, not the show I saw. But yeah, on Voodoo Highway tour, they did Speed King from Deep Purple.
Cool.
So maybe that's what, one night they would do Speed King, the next night, Bad Company maybe type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't a big fan of Dusk, though. I was very disappointed by Dusk. Dusk was just a collection of demos, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that Badlands disbanded really was because Ray Gillen wanted more pop and Jake didn't. And then there was like some nasty interview that Ray Gillen, I mean, or it was either Ray Gillen or, yeah, it was Ray Gillen, did a very nasty interview on Kerrang magazine, like bad mouthing Jake and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they played a gig after that, and Jake read the article on stage with Ray Gillen right there. So yeah, and that was, I believe, their very last show.
Yeah, they brought in a female singer, I think, after that, and it just didn't work out for them.
Yeah, which is a shame. I mean, they say that that first Badlands really went gold, but they didn't keep the tally on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it sold well. It sold very well. And I remember Winter's Call was on MTV's that Dial MTV thing when you would call and request a video. That was on, I mean, like, you know, in the top 10. Winter's Call a bunch of times. So it got some traction.
Yeah, and they were popular with a wide, varied fans, because that was like, you know, people that liked the glam stuff liked them, and then the people that liked a little heavier stuff and more more into the thrash and stuff, they liked Badlands because Jake E. Lee was such a guitar hero. And they weren't all glammed out either. They just, you know, they looked like a freaking, you know, rock and roll band, like kind of almost a Western attire that they were kind of going for. Unlike Blue Murder, who got dressed like pirates.
Yeah, but yeah, Jake rules, man. And yeah, I'm not a fan of Ultimate Sin. I get a lot of shit for that. I do love Shot in the Dark, though. I ain't gonna deny
Great
that.
track, yeah.
That song is just awesome. But yeah, I'm not a big fan. I like Jake is great on Ultimate Sin, though. He is. You know, he plays his ass off. I just don't feel the song. Secret Cruiser, that's another one I like.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of those songs where I connect more to the dark Bark at the Moon stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the thing with our Ultimate Sin, I guess, really as well, is just Ozzy's whole image. I mean, that he was just so glammed out. I mean, he looked like a reject from the Golden Girls. Hair and those some of those costumes he was wearing, it was just crazy, you know. Yeah. But it was, you know, it was 1986, so there you go.
I'm telling you, all my heroes were doing that. I mean, you know, that's when I kind of went the thrash route.
Yeah.
You know, after 1984, all these bands were trying to be Motley Crue. Because when Motley Crue went all Theater of Pain and shit, you know, you had Judas Priest with colors on them, and Iron Maiden putting synthesizers, and everything was changing. Ozzy with the glam.
You had a lot of these guys that just tried to be pretty and they couldn't. You know, Saxon, for instance.
Yeah, there you go. Saxon's another great example.
Yeah.
Innocence is no excuse. I was like, then, you know, influx of, you know, Slayer, and also, you know, the Celtic Frost and the Venoms and Merciful Fate. All that became my, you know, I still loved everything Ozzy and all those did before 84. I still loved all that stuff, even through my phase of not liking what they were doing currently. And I would always go see them. I saw the Ultimate Sin tour. I saw the Turbo tour. I saw Somewhere in Time tour. I still would go, you know, to hear the classics and shit, but none of those shows were as good as when I saw them before 84 or during 84, you know, like the Power Slave tour. I don't think Maiden's ever topped, though I will say the tour they did, like, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, was like, it was the first of the nostalgia tours they would do.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing. That was the one where they had kind of like the Power Slave set.
Yeah.
It was
the Somewhere Back in Time tour.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
That was up there with Power Slave for me. I thought it was just as good, you know, but everything after it just wasn't, it lacked the fire. So, you know, that's when I started going to theater and club shows around that time, you know, from the arenas to that, you know, to see, you know, I saw King Diamond and Celtic Frost and all these killer bands in smaller venues. And that just, that's how I rounded out the late '80s with my love for speed and thrash metal and underground metal. You know?
Yeah, I kind of came into it the same time, at like 87, 88, stuff like that. Started getting into more of the underground stuff. Metallica was a gateway to that, of course.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, Metallica, and back in the '80s, nobody hated Metallica,
Mm-hmm.
and the funniest
Well, I
part,
knew people that hated them. It was like, how do you listen to that shit?
yeah,
Because
I mean, those people don't count because they
yeah,
ain't into metal at all.
yeah,
Well, yeah, of course. But I'm talking about the fans loved Metallica, and their favorite member was Lars Ulrich.
yeah.
Back in the '80s, Lars was godly. You never heard a bad word about Lars Ulrich, And but anyway, yeah. So there you go. Let's talk about the other anniversaries.
Well, there's a couple of Alice Cooper records that came out this past week in different periods. I always look at milestone anniversaries, 45th, 50th, 35th, 30th. So 50 years ago this week, Alice Cooper's Muscle of Love, which was the last album by the original Alice Cooper group. Before Alice, a lot of people don't realize and don't think about it, but Alice went solo after this. Welcome to My Nightmare was an Alice Cooper solo album, and that's kind of how he just continued his career. But the original band with Michael Bruce and Glenn Buxton, Dennis Dunaway, Neil Smith, this was how they pretty much finalized their career. And it's not a great record. It's got a few good songs on it, and it's actually not produced by, like their other albums were produced by
Bob Ezrin.
Ezrin. This one was Jack Douglas, I think it was, and great packaging. This album. It's
I have that, by the way. I recently saw like some podcast or a YouTube show talking about that album, and they said when it was released back then, a lot of people wanted a refund because they thought that stain was real. That stain was real.
See this coloration across the bottom here.
Yeah,
People thought it was wet, and record stores were complaining about stocking it because it took up, as thick as it is, took up like 3 or 4 spaces in a rack, so they can only put like 5 copies out at a time. And like I said, it's a neat package though. It comes in like one Muscle of Love. You get the album, and of course it's got the guys in sailor suits on the front. They're getting ready to go into this nude wrestling, the Institute of Nude Wrestling, and they all come, and you see them on the back. They all come out, and they're all in shambles. Great cover, and it even came with a poster here that's actually a book cover. Like if you remember when you were in like grammar school, they used to want you to put book covers on your books, on your textbooks, to protect them. So I'm sure a lot of people cut this up and used it, but thankfully whoever originally owned this record didn't. But yeah, it's great packaging. And speaking of great packaging with Alice Cooper, we go to his album, which turned 45 this week after he had become a solo artist, From the Inside. And I know Ralph loves this album.
I love it.
It's awesome, and it's great packaging on this. It opens up, and you can see all the mental patients and stuff. And it's about Alice's stay in a mental ward. He went in for alcohol abuse and realized he was in a mental facility. And it's just all these different characters. It's even got a song here called The Quiet Room. And there's a door that opens up, and there's Alice. He's sitting in the rubber room, which is the quiet room. And the back cover opens up to show all the inmates escaping. That is just great album package, and it's a great. He wrote it with Bernie Taupin, Elton John's songwriting partner. So it's a lot of mellow stuff on here, and a lot of kind of vaudeville sounding stuff. But it's some rocking stuff on here as well. I mean, he's got a great band on here as well. I mean, like Davy Johnston from Elton John's playing on it, and it's got some really, really cool stuff. It's produced by David Foster. This sounds like it would be something that would be produced by Ezrin, if you think about it, with the concept of it and everything. But yeah, that's 2 great records from Alice and his camp. that came out 50 and 45 years ago. I mean, think about that. They're just 5 years apart, those two albums, and how much had gone on for that guy in his career by then, you know.
Yeah, like a few albums there in between, you know.
Because you had Welcome My Nightmare, Go to Hell,
Laced Whiskey.
Whiskey.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper Show, the live album. Yeah. He was definitely burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah. Great stuff, man. I love it.
And then we got several albums that came out 35 years ago this week. I just posted this one up on Facebook earlier. Great doom metal album, Candlemass, Ancient Dreams.
It's a masterpiece.
Just a great album. It's not my favorite of the Candlemass albums. I got to go Nightfall, but this is, and then I go Tales of Creation, and then this probably. Of course, I love Epicus Doomicus.
Epicus is my favorite.
Great record. I always look at it as an EP, but it's a great record for sure, Epicus. But this one's got Mirror Mirror on it, and just a really cool record. I mean, good doom band. They had the CD version that came out had a bonus track of them doing a Black Sabbath medley, and that was like so cool.
Yeah, I have that CD.
Another one that came out 35 years ago this week was Transcendence from Crimson Glory. Midnight, the guys. I mean, these guys they were from Florida.
I saw that tour.
Yeah, Transcendence is a good album. It's their second album, and yeah, I mean, if you like stuff like Queensryche, like old Queensryche, The Warning and stuff like that, you'll definitely dig this. It was in the same kind of proggy metal vein. Great band. They kind of after this, they kind of went into a more commercial direction for one album. Then they kind of pretty much imploded after that. Midnight's they just released a solo album from Midnight, a bunch of unreleased recordings, a bunch of him doing some cover songs and stuff. I want to check that out. He was a great.
I got a Midnight album like a year or two ago. I don't know if it's the same one.
There was one that came out, wow, a good 10 years or so ago, I guess, that I didn't think was that good. But the newest one that came out recently might have been in over the last year. I know it came out. Is mostly cover songs.
Yeah, I have that.
There's a guy that I know here lives in. He's from my hometown that played keyboards on some of the tracks on it, and I've been meaning to get up with him and listen to it sometime. He watches the show. He's probably watching tonight. Zane, if you're watching, we're talking about you. And another one, great record, 35 years, is Kings of Metal from Manowar. And I think this was the last great Manowar album. It's the last one with Ross the Boss, that's for sure, on guitar.
That one is my favorite.
Great record, man.
Kings of Metal is my favorite Manowar album.
I like parts of some of the ones, a couple of the ones that came after, but not many. I mean, maybe the next two had a couple of good songs on them, but like I said, if you're going from battle hymns to this, I mean, this is it.
That's the best Manowar. I love Hail to England, man. What an album that is, too.
Great album cover.
Ride. Yeah, and that album right there with the same guy that did Kiss Love Gun.
Yeah, Ken Kelly did this album cover. Yeah. Yeah, this is a great one, man. Wheels of Fire, Kings of Metal, Heart of Steel. It's Stinging a Bumblebee, which is basically Joey DeMayo's bass solo playing Flight of the Bumblebee. It's pretty wicked. Hell and Keel. That's probably one of my favorite Manowar songs ever.
Blood of the Kings.
Blood of the Kings. Yeah, it's great. And it's got of course it's got the the one where the grandfather's telling them the story.
Yeah. That I can do without. The Warrior's Prayer.
Yeah, the Warrior's Prayer. But it's a good intro, to the song.
It's nice to hear, but it's kind of like, I know a lot of people don't agree with me on this either. I hate the way Destroyer starts. It's just, I don't want to hear a guy working on his car doing his dishes before Detroit Rock City kicks in. I don't mind hearing it once, but every time I put on Destroyer, it's like, fuck, I don't want to hear this intro. I just don't want to hear it.
I like it. I mean, but I want to hear the song just kick in. That's why I actually like the version on Double Platinum better.
Yeah. And Kiss Alive. But I feel the same way about the Warriors prayer. Yeah, it's okay to hear it, but not every time.
Yeah.
I want to hear Blood of the Kings after Hail and Kill. Just get right to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Manowar. I mean, they're one of those bands. I was hoping to get to see them one more time. I really wanted to see them with Michelangelo Badio on guitar, but I don't think they'll ever tour the States again. If
No.
they did, they should just do because they're on this farewell tour, and those guys are getting up in age, and they could do maybe 3 big shows in the U.S. And if you want to see them, you just travel to see them. I think that would be the best way for them to do it. But they say they don't make any money over here. That's why they just always tour in Europe. And the last couple of times that I saw them in a small club. I mean, I saw them at Jack's in Virginia, and I saw them in a club over in North Carolina. And it's just small stage, and you just don't think about Manowar playing on something like that when you see them in Europe and they're playing in front of 50,000 people. And they even had their own festival. What was it called? The Magic Circle Festival they were having over in Europe about 10, 12 years ago. And they had the Kiss and Def Leppard like playing below Manowar. Manowar's the headlining act.
Wow.
It's just
That's crazy.
they're just huge over there, man. So
Wait,
the Kiss, we're gonna go with this one for another 35th anniversary. Smashes, thrashes, and hits. And it was a best of greatest hits compilation, but it did a bunch of remixes and stuff. But they got 2 new songs on here. Let's put the X in sex and You Make Me Rock Hard. And they've got to be 2 of the worst songs in the Kiss catalog. You Make Me Rock Hard, I can almost deal with, but Let's Put the X in Sex is just a comedy song, man. I love that. You used that little thing of Paul, that one of the things, you had that thing of Paul dancing around from the video.
he's checking his clock, dancing.
Yeah.
Um,
But some of the remixes and stuff is pretty cool on this record, actually.
well, I gotta say, man, I'm not a fan of that album, but I gotta tell you, my favorite version of Love Gun is on Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits because Ace does that guitar solo with no vocals over it. I love that. It's that iconic guitar solo he does in Love Gun
without
no
the
vocals. Man, it's
no
my
chorus.
favorite.
Yeah, they took the chorus out. Yeah.
It's my favorite version of Love Gun.
I've heard some people say they like the version of Beth with Eric Carr on vocals, and I just thought that was just blasphemy. I mean, that was the first step at Scab Kiss, I guess, was having Peter's trademark song re-recorded by another guy, the new drummer. And I've never. Have you ever heard if Eric Carr ever said that he was forced into that or?
No, but he did say one time he wasn't happy with it.
Yeah.
Of course he was forced into it, but he never admitted it,
I mean, they should have just done Black Diamond and let him sing that out because he was doing that live,
That would have been logical.
But of course, then Kiss tells Peter, no, we'll never do Beth without you. When he left again after the reunion, of course, and now they've got, Eric Singer out there doing it and his fake piano.
Oh, is that fake? I thought it was real.
No, I think they're just trying to recreate the Pauline Halloween special. Because he's playing the piano just like Peter was on that television show, and then the band members walk up behind him and stand behind him at the end, just like on the Pauline special. So I think that's what it is.
And there's videos out there getting close up of his hands.
Yeah, he may know how to play it. I mean,
but he's not. I mean, he may know how to play it, but he doesn't do it live.
No.
There's video out there of him like you hear a piano, but the hand ain't hitting at the same time. But to go back for a second on Manowar, the only time I ever saw Manowar, because I've been into Manowar since like '82, like since Badlands, I've been a fan, and I never saw him till Warriors of the World in 2007, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always my bucket list band, and I was so excited to finally see Manowar, right?
Was that with Rhapsody?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rhapsody and Holy Hell. Was that the name of the band?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
anyway, they were good.
Yeah. We get to the show, right? And what we see on the door blew my mind. No spikes allowed. They wouldn't allow you to go in with spikes. This is a band that has a song that says, "We wear leather We wear
You wear
spikes.
spikes.
We roll the night, And I can't come in the show with spikes. And then, and I've been to the Culture Room a million times. You walk in, there's a big patio, there's a merch thing. Then you got to go through a little room to get to the stage part. Well, when we go in, they didn't have that part open to go to the stage. And we were like cattle, like all squashed in this little patio part. And we're like, what the hell's going on? I mean, they won't let us bring in spikes. Good thing I didn't take my spikes because I do own spikes, but I didn't take them that night. But then, Holy Hell was cool. Rhapsody was awesome. Manowar, they broke my heart that night, dude. It was like they were going through the motions. And then Joey started hitting on some girl in the audience for far too long, where they could have played at least a song during that part. And it just wasn't good. So after the show, I was so upset that I left. But my friend stayed behind. And Joey DeMaio, according to my friend, he told me this. He went to get an autograph from Joey DeMaio, and Joey DeMaio was walking out, and Joey DeMaio stopped, pointed at him, and goes, "Don't even think about it," and walked into the bus. Eric Adams comes out, and he said something to the effect of "no," and walked in. And yeah, that's what I heard happen. They got blown off. They just wanted me to get an autograph and a picture, and they were like, "No." I heard it, man. It broke my heart, and I have this philosophy, dude. The only way I would go see Manowar again is if I'm in Europe, because there they care. There they'll give me a show. They just were not happy playing the Culture Room in Fort Lauderdale. It broke my heart. Broke my heart.
Well, the first time I saw him at Jack's up in Northern Virginia, and I think that was the Louder Than Hell tour, and it was packed. I mean, it's pretty much sold out show, and they put on a great show that night. And after the show was done, they set up a table. They signed autographs. I got a Louder Than Hell poster up on my ceiling here. It's autographed by everybody, and I got a few CDs signed by them. And it was really cool. That was a really good show. My second Manowar show, I saw them in a club in North Carolina called Ziggy's, and it was hardly anybody there. It's in the early 2000s, and metal's not what it is now. You don't have this new generation of these younger fans coming out that just would pack to see something like that. It was just a bunch of older guys, just people my age and stuff that were there. We're watching them. It may have been maybe 150 people, and they were playing, and the stage had a hole in the roof or something, but it was like leaking down on the stage, and Joey was trying to like get around it and not get rained on. But it's funny, you were talking about him flirting with a girl at the show you were at. So this girl was there who was a friend of mine, and she was one of maybe 3 girls that were there. I mean, this is a sausage fest, even though it's 150 people there. Her boyfriend is a biker, and he is a badass motherfucker, and he's upstairs playing pool. She's standing with me watching the show, and Joey looks at her and he's pointing and he's flirting with her, and he sends his roadie out to talk to her, and she goes, "Oh my God, just what am I do? What am I going to do?" I said, "Tell him your boyfriend's in the Hell's Angels and see what he says." So the roadie comes over, she says that to him, he goes back. I see him tell Joey in his ear. Joey never looked at her again the rest of the night. And then the last time I saw him was the same tour you saw, and it was at the same exact club that I had been at before, where they got rained on, and they were with Rhapsody. And by then, metal had that resurgence. You had this whole new legion of fans getting into stuff, and Rhapsody were pretty popular as well. And it was packed, man. It was sold out. And I don't remember much about Manowar's performance that night. I mean, it was so packed in there, it was uncomfortable to the point where we just kind of just hung out, drank, talked, and Manowar was just kind of background music.
Right. Well, yeah.
But I'd love to see him one more time, but it'll probably never happen.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I would love to see like I own all those DVDs and they're all awesome.
Hmm.
Those Manowar DVD, I gotta put that on because they're a lot of beer drinking and
I
group.
love I love when they play battle hymns and they have all the people who had ever been in the band are all on stage at once. That's really cool. They had but two drummers, three guitarists, or maybe four guitarists. Yeah, that was really cool. Of course, they had old what's his name? What was the guitar player? Carl the Ped. And then they
Oh
got
yeah,
Carl Logan. Yeah.
Logan, I think his name
Yeah,
was.
he was living in North Carolina when he got busted with that whatever
It, it,
pedophilia.
he's in jail, right? Is
Yeah,
he
he went to prison for sure.
for
And
for like a
Manowar,
decade?
you notice Manowar never said nothing about it. It was just like, well, he's out of the band. That's it. We're not talking about it. And it's
Yeah.
really the best thing they should have just done. Just shut it out. Don't even talk about it. They just moved on. But I would love to see him with Michelangelo Badio. And there's been a little bit of cell phone footage has come out, but that's about it. That dude is just over the top player. Him and Joey together. I'm sure it's just crazy.
Oh, I would love to see that,
Yeah.
but they won't do it unless it's in Europe, which
Yep.
sucks.
Yep.
So
For sure.
That's all the anniversaries.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got for this week. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Sure,
So
there's been some other stuff.
we got people watching us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Someone said Carl Logan. Yep. Yep. He's locked up. That's for sure. Yeah. Somebody said Rhapsody. Pat Posse said Rhapsody killed it. He said, and I was there and they took my spikes and my camera. No cameras allowed.
wow. Yeah, I didn't. I think that's what happened at our show too. They wouldn't allow cameras, which yeah, I mean back then I'm amazed I didn't take my video camera because I used to bootleg a lot of. There's a lot of culture room shows that I bootleg that are were very well circulated back then. Like I filmed King Diamond there and Nevermore. I'll tell you, Tony, this was one of the best shows I ever saw. It was Nevermore. Goddamn, who was the second band?
Arch Enemy.
No.
I saw them together.
Well, I saw Nevermore. I forgot the second band, but man, opening, this band is awesome. Angel Dust.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Good
it was
band.
on,
I've got a
it
couple
was,
CDs by them. Mm-hmm.
oh, they're awesome. They
Yeah.
started off as a thrash band,
Mm-hmm.
but their later albums are like a little more power metal tinge. But
Yeah.
God, I saw it was the Enlightening the Darkness tour. Now, what happened at this show, which was weird, something happened with the scheduling where Nevermore didn't headline. Angel Dust headline. Can't remember who the fuck that other band was. Well, some band opened, then Nevermore played. Then Angel Dust went on like at 2 in the morning. And I filmed it. They were fucking amazing. And they played, you could tell they played longer than what they usually would play. And man, people stuck around for them, man. They had like a little bit of a following, but then of Human Bondage didn't really, it wasn't a good follow up to Light in the Darkness. But yeah, that's one of my favorite bands. I mean, I know they're technically early '90s because of thrash, but man, the shit they did in the
What's the first song? It makes me bleed.
no, it's just
Yeah.
called Bleed.
Bleed. Yeah, yeah. That was a good song.
That's a
With the keyboard in it. Yeah. Yeah. That
great
was good.
album called Bleed. My favorite's the next one, but it's what was it? Dusk. I own the two thrash albums
Mm-hmm.
they started with, but that's a great band, man. And I don't know if they're still around. I know
I think they're still going. Seems like I remember hearing maybe someone passed away in that band not long ago. I can't remember.
well,
Um,
when I saw them, the only original member was the bass player,
mhm.
and he was awesome, nice guy. He played bass left-handed, but yeah.
Someone commented, new avatar said, I guess we're talking about Bark of the Moon. Said this is Sharon's debut album.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right, because she was pulling all the strings by then.
yeah. According to Jake, after they were done recording Bark of the Moon, like Sharon threatened him or some shit. Like he signed some contract that he couldn't get out of, and Sharon says, "Well, if you leave, we're just going to get somebody else to play your parts, you know?
Yeah.
But yet he said nice things about Sharon too afterwards. But yeah.
I thought it was cool. We're when it was in the I don't know, was it in the Dio movie or no, maybe not in the Dio movie. It was some interview I saw with Wendy Dio. She said that, Jake was in Rough Cut and she was managing Rough Cut and she drove Jake to the audition for Ozzy
Oh, really?
because at one point, even though the war was going on in the press between Ozzy and Dio, Sharon and Wendy were somewhat on a friendly basis, I guess, because it's just business relationships.
Well, you know what I heard? Jake said this was when Jake auditioned for um, Ozzy hired Jake and then he called George Lynch over, who was there. And George Lynch came over and in front of Jake, Ozzy said, "Pack your shit, you're out of here." And George Lynch, like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, was on tour with Ozzy, and Brad Gillis was the guitar player, just to, find out how the show works and all that, only to be fired. And and according, I mean, that's Jake Lee's story. And then when they asked George Lynch about that, George Lynch said, "Oh yeah, that's exactly how it happened. They fired me in front of Jakey Lee." And but George says they fired him because he had short hair at the time. Because George, had family, had kids and shit.
Yeah, George had a family. He was driving a truck. He was driving a beer delivery truck,
Yeah, yeah.
and he basically quit his job to go out with Ozzy. And then he said, he lost his job. He said he was crying on the way home because he didn't have a job. Yeah, and he had a family.
Yeah, that's shit.
Yeah, that's pretty tough there. But yeah, and then supposedly Jake played with Dio for a little while there
He
at
did.
the start, before he picked Vivian. He
Yeah,
was
because
one of
Dio,
the English guitarists.
yeah, Dio liked Jake, but he wanted somebody that had more of an England feel
Yeah.
from Europe, And holy crap, what a jackpot Vivian Campbell was, huh?
I just saw a thing the other day with I think it was in Full Bloom interview with Vivian where he was talking about about meeting Gary Moore. And he said the first time he ever met Gary Moore, he was working with Phil Lynott, and he was over at Phil's house. He had stayed there, and he just happened to go downstairs to make a cup of tea, and he said Gary Moore was in the kitchen, and he tried to make conversation with him, like, "Hey, what kind of strings do you use?" Stuff, and said Gary was like having none of it. Just Gary blew him off because he feels like Gary thought that he was one of the druggies that was dragging Phil down. And so I mean, here he is, he's meeting one of his idol guitar player, and the guy's just kind of blowing him off because he thinks he's a druggie or something, and he was nothing like that. He was just there trying to work on a project or whatever, possibly with Phil.
Yeah, I talked about that like a week ago on The Only News That Matters. I did a news report about that. And I also said in the news report, man, that Vivian has a lot of Gary Moore in his playing. You can hear that influence, like in the song Gypsy from Dio, you can hear Gary Moore all over
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, man, yeah.
And I mean, I really like. I haven't heard the third one, but I like the first Last in Line album. Second one I didn't like much, and I saw the very last Jimmy Bain show because
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. Yeah,
yeah, they played the
it,
casino
it
before.
was the pre-party of the ship of the cruise,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, and then when and Vivian Jimmy died 2 days later.
Wow.
Tell you, man, fucking Vivian was on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, ripping like he did back in the Dio days, where all I can think of is, man, I mean, I understand it. There's money to be made in Def Leppard, but what a waste of talent. I mean, he does nothing in Def Leppard, but he makes the money, which is cool. Good for him,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he's out. I mean, in it, he makes enough. He makes a decent living doing that. I'm sure he makes a very, very good living doing that, to the point where he can go out and do the last in line thing and play small venues and not make a lot of money, but he's having fun with it. And he's playing a Les Paul through a Engel amp, which he's not doing in Def Leppard. He's everything's they're probably running everything like helixes or whatever, processors and stuff. He's doing it old school in last in line. It looks like he's having such a good time up there as well. I've seen him a couple of times. I got to meet him, different times, and he's always really, really nice and friendly, and he'll answer any questions you got. He's having a really, really good time doing that.
yeah, man. The show, and it was ripping. I mean, actually, and I said this too. It's like it has to be out of 1,000 shows I've seen. That show has to be in my top 10. The Last in Line show. It was just fucking unbelievably good. They did all the Dio songs I wanted to hear. Shit I didn't expect, like Invisible.
Mm-hmm.
I Speed at Night. All these songs I never saw actually Dio play.
Yeah.
I saw the Last in Line tour. They didn't play, Speed of Light, but I Speed at Night. But they played it that night, and a bunch of other ones, Straight Through the Heart, couple deep tracks. They played nothing off Sacred Heart, nothing. It was all the first two albums and random songs off their debut album, which is really good.
Yeah.
I love that album,
Yeah, that first album was really good. The second one had a couple of good songs, but it didn't do a lot for me. And the last time I saw them, they mixed it up and they had a good 50-50 set of their original tunes and Dio classics.
Right.
I mean, on that first tour, they could have played Shot in the Dark if they wanted, because Phil Souchon was in the band,
There you go. Yeah.
And he's the one that wrote the lyrics to that, or wrote the music for that. Have you ever heard that Wildlife version of it? He was in a band called Wildlife with Phil was in a band called Wildlife with Simon Kirke from Bad Company. And there's a demo of Shot in the Dark. You can find it on YouTube. Just look up Wildlife Shot in the Dark. And it's, just hearing their version of it, it's pretty similar to what Ozzy did.
Oh,
He said he wrote it for Billy Idol. He wanted Billy Idol to record it, actually.
He was in Billy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's probably where it came from, yeah. But he ended up with Ozzy, and Ozzy had a good big hit with it, that's for sure.
And then there was problems with Phil Souchon and Ozzy and Sharon.
Yeah.
Where I don't know, I think they put Ultimate Sin back out, but there was a while you couldn't get it. Like so just to fuck him over.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a story that she kicked Phil Souchon in the knee in front of Randy Castillo's open casket.
Yeah, I heard that as well. Yeah.
That's some evil shit, man.
Yeah.
That is one evil, disgusting woman.
Yeah, for sure.
But all right, Tony. Well, this was fun. I want to thank everybody that spent their Thanksgiving with me and Tony. It was a fun discussion. And we'll think up something next Thursday, right, Tony?
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Maybe we can get Bark at the Noon Wayne up, and maybe he won't have a midnight Thanksgiving dinner next week. Do you think they've eaten yet?
Yeah, right. We haven't heard from Wayne. There's like a possibility we were going to do this a question and answering show, but
yeah, we need to do that for sure. We need Manny. We need everybody. You need Ian, everybody for that.
Maybe that'll be next Thursday, but maybe not.
Yeah,
hold us to it, but we will do another question and answering show. It needs to be done, but we definitely need Manny and Tony here for that.
James West said, I just got home and I missed you guys again. It will be on the YouTube channel. You can go back and watch it.
Don't worry. When we sign off here, you can watch it from the beginning.
Yeah, someone just asked if next week's going to be the Q&A. So we'll see.
We'll see. I'm not promising. Cool. But right on, everybody. And thank you again, Tony. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Everybody have a good weekend.
that's right. And I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And everybody out there, man, and there is I have some friends like this. They have no family. They have nobody, you know? And to those people, hey, you are my family, you know, and I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And I care about you, you know. And
You got any weekend plans, Ralph?
no, not this weekend. I ain't doing jack squat except me and Ian will be doing an episode. I think tomorrow we're
Take,
doing.
I'm taking Linda to see Wednesday 13 for the Murder Dolls Saturday night. That's what she wanted to do for her birthday. So she's feeling good, which I'm sure she will by in 2 more days. So
No, I hope
see
so.
that. It'll be a good show.
It's her
Yeah.
birthday today, right?
Her birthday was yesterday, actually. Yeah.
All right. Was she feeling good yesterday?
No.
That
It was
sucks.
worse yesterday. So
That,
yeah. So we'll get to go see Wednesday 13. That'll be a good show. I love that first Murder Dolls album. If you like stuff like Misfits, you dig it. It's good stuff. That's what he's playing. He's playing all the stuff from that first album.
all right, on. All right. Well, I hope you have a good time at the show, bro.
All right. Hope so, man. Thanks.
All right. So until next week, Tony, and everybody out there, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. Smack 'em a gob. Later, dude.
Later.